안녕하세요. You're going to learn how to express possibility in Korean as if you use would or might in this lesson. Let's go. Let's learn how to say something is a possibility or talk about possible actions or happenings. Let's see these English sentences first. I can go to the party tonight. I could go to the party tonight. I may go to the party tonight. I might go to the party tonight. I will likely go to the party tonight. I'll go to the party tonight. This is not an English learning material, so we are not gonna explain about this, but you guys know the difference of the nuance or meaning between these sentences, don't you? Even though you don't know, it is totally fine. Actually, that's our point. You don't have to know that. Anyway, we are going to learn how to say something is a possibility or talk about possible actions or happenings in Korean. You don't have to know the exact difference between these English sentences. That's better, right? Let's learn the positive forms first. It's gonna be great. Listen carefully. There are two ways to say that something is a possibility. Of course, there are actually more than just two, but you don't have to know all that. These two ways would be enough for you for a while. We are pretty sure. The first one is used when you think there is 70% or more chance to happen. And the second one is used when you think there is 40 to 60% chance to happen. So you don't have to know the differences between those English sentences. When you think there is a good chance of something happening, you use the first one. And when you're not quite sure, you just use the second one. Pretty simple and useful, isn't it? Let's see how they look like then. When you think there is 70% or more chance to happen, you add the final L consonant or 을 sound plus 것 같다 to the stem of a verb or an adjective. 을 것 같다. 을 것 같다. Of course, you use 같아요 in a real-life conversation instead of the basic form 같다. 을 것 같아요. 을 것 같아요. 을 것 같아요. Let's see what's actually in it. You know the final L consonant or 을 sound is something that turns the stem into a modifier form which indicates assumption, expectation, or possibility. It has the nuance of something happening in the future from the moment that the sentence indicates. You know what it means? When did you use this final L or 을 sound? Yes, firstly, you used it for the future tense. For example, 할 거예요 or 먹을 거예요. But think about it. 예요 is also a predicate and it is in the present simple tense. Then why did we tell you that 할 거예요 is in the future tense? It's because of the nuance that the final L consonant or 을 sound has. So you're talking in the present moment about something happening in the future. You don't even care how near the future is. You might mean you will do it right now, but not the moment you're talking. Probably just right after you're done talking. So even though the last predicate 예요 is in the present tense, the final L consonant or 을 sound indicates the future of the present moment. Now you get it? Then what if we put the last predicate 예요 in the past tense? You are talking about the past moment and the final L consonant or 을 sound indicates the future of the past. The future of the past does not necessarily mean the present moment. It can be right before the present moment or just after the past moment. Do you understand? No worries, we'll have the chance to talk about this one more time with the examples. Then when did you see this final L consonant and 을 sound used again? Yes, when you learn how to say you have an ability to do something. Final L consonant or 을 plus 수 있어요. 을 수 있어요. 할 수 있어요. 갈 수 있어요. 먹을 수 있어요. Remember? So when you say you can do something, you mean you can do that thing any moment in the near future or just in the future, right? That's why this final L consonant and sound was used for it. Okay? So you expect something to happen in the near future. Something might happen in the near future. So you use this final L consonant or sound again. Hope it's clear then. You will still use this final L consonant or sound when you expected something to happen from the past moment. So it's not like this final L consonant or sound indicates the absolute future. It's relative, okay? And 것 is a dependent noun, as you know. It is used to refer to an object without using its name. Or it turns a verb or an adjective into a noun form. You know that. So it kind of turns the phrase before it into a noun form. You put a space between L or and 것 because 것 is a noun. It's a dependent noun, but it's still a noun. So you put a space between them. That's it. Just leave it there and check out the next word. 같다. 같다 is an adjective which originally means to be same. But it does not mean to be same when it's used as an assistant verb to say something is a possibility. Instead, it roughly means to expect, and it expresses your final judgment to say that the phrase before 을 것 will most likely happen. Then why did we use the dependent noun 것 here? There's no particular reason for that. It's just used idiomatically. There's no rule for it. So you have to memorize the entire 것 같다 part. Please do not try to understand it word by word. It's used as a set. Again, when you think there is 70% or more chance for something to happen, you use 을 것 같다, 을 것 같아요, 을 것 같아요. And the assistant verb 같다, 같아요 is your final judgment that the phrase before 을 것 is expected to happen. Therefore, when you judge now, you use the present tense for 같다, 같아요. But when you want to indicate that you judged in the past, you should use the past tense for 같다, 같았어요, 같았어요. Okay? Maybe it's too much. Let's talk about it later with examples again. Let's see the second one. When you think that there is 40 to 60% of chance for something to happen, you add the final L consonant or 을 sound plus 지도 모르다. 을지도 모르다. 모르다 means not know, as you know. When you actually speak, you can use 을지도 몰라요. 을지도 몰라요. Right? If you don't understand how 모르다 becomes 몰라요, please check out the previous lessons. It's one of the irregular conjugations that happens when the last letter of the stem has L sound with vowel. Okay? The final L or sound is the same thing, which turns the stem into a modifier form which indicates assumption, expectation, or possibility. And 지, you've seen this one before. Remember? We use this connective ending 지 to say, I don't know why something happens. It's a connective ending that you use to connect your question or assumption with a final judgment. You don't put a space between L or 을 and 지 this time because 지 is a connective ending. It has to be attached to something. So you don't put a space between them. But you don't actually have to know that unless you're planning to take a test. No worries. 도. You've seen this one as well. It's an auxiliary particle which is used to mean to as well, also. It's a particle, do you remember? Here it is used to indicate unexpected things or actions. You might wonder why these Korean words always change their usages and meanings. Well, I think the same thing happens in any other languages as well as English. You can find more than 5 usages of this particle 도 if you look into a Korean dictionary. But if you take a close look at them, you might realize that they are all kind of connected to each other in some way. We'll tell you what it means again. Now just know that the particle 도 is used here. So, 모르다, 몰라요, 몰라요. is your final judgment to say that you don't know for sure whether the phrase before 을지도 would happen or not. You are not quite sure. That's why you use the verb not know. You don't know for sure, but it might happen if a certain condition is fulfilled. Okay? So this ending 지 sound kind of has the nuance that the English conjunction whether has. Then what is the role of the particle do here? You don't know for sure whether something is happening. If a certain condition is fulfilled, one thing can happen, or the other thing can also happen. The other thing can happen too. Also, too. And that can be something unexpected. That's why you use the particle do to express those nuances we've just mentioned. You don't have to know all these, but we're telling you this to help you understand better. So, 을지도 몰라요. 을지도 몰라요 sounds like you don't know for sure, but if a certain condition is fulfilled, one thing might happen or the other thing might happen too unexpectedly. Now you perfectly understand, don't you? 을지도 모르다. 을지도 몰라요. 을지도 몰라요. Let's make actual sentences together, which is much more interesting. I might go to the market tonight. Let's rearrange the words. I, tonight, to the market, go might or might go. Let's make a sentence that you can use when you are more than 70% sure about your plan. Let's not mention the subject I. Tonight, 오늘 밤. We told you that it's actually pronounced 오늘 밤 with a double consonant b. 오늘 밤. We also told you that there is an actual rule for this, but it might be too much for you to learn that rule right now. So just remember it's pronounced 오늘 밤, 오늘 밤, rather than 오늘 밤, 오늘 밤. To the market. Market here means a place where goods are bought and sold, usually outdoors. It's 시장, 시장, 시장 in Korean. You go to the place. Therefore, you add a place-related or destination-related particle 에, 시장에, 시장에. Go might or might go. The basic form of the verb go in Korean is 가다. 가 is the stem. Since it doesn't have a final consonant, you add the final 르 consonant and add 것 같아요. 갈 것 같아요. But let's apply the pronunciation rule that you've learned. First of all, 갈 has the final 르 consonant, which turns the predicate into a modifier form. It turns the initial 그, 드, 브, 스, 즈 consonant in the next block into double consonant 그, 드, 브, 스, 즈. Therefore, 갈 것 is supposed to be pronounced 갈 것, 갈 것 with a double consonant 그 sound. 갈 것. And 것 has a final consonant 스. But it is said to be pronounced 드 consonant, which turns the initial 그, 드, 브, 스, 즈 consonant in the next block into the double consonant 그, 드, 브, 스, 즈. So it turns the 그 consonant of 갓 sound in the next block into the double consonant 그 again. So 갓 becomes 갓, 갓. And the t consonant which 갓 sound has moves up to the initial of the next block because the next block has consonant. So 갈 것 becomes 갈 것 and 같아요 becomes 같아요. 같아요. 갈 것 같아요. 갈 것 같아요. 갈 것 같아요. Rather than 갈 것 같아요. 갈 것 같아요. 갈 것 같아요. Okay? Tonight. 오늘 밤. To the market. 시장에. Go might. 갈 것 같아요. 오늘 밤 시장에 갈 것 같아요. 오늘 밤 시장에 갈 것 같아요. 오늘 밤 시장에 갈 것 같아요. It means you are more than 70% sure that you are going to the market tonight. And when you are 40 to 60% sure, you add the final L consonant and 지도 몰라요. 갈지도 몰라요. But it's actually pronounced 갈지도 몰라요. 갈지도 몰라요. With double consonant 쯔 sound because of the final L consonant which is added to the stem. Okay? 갈지도 몰라요. 갈지도 몰라요. 오늘 밤 시장에 갈지도 몰라요. 오늘 밤 시장에 갈지도 몰라요. 오늘 밤 시장에 갈지도 몰라요. So when someone asks you, 오늘 밤 뭐 할 거예요? What are you doing tonight? You can answer, 오늘 밤 시장에 갈 것 같아요. 오늘 밤 시장에 갈 것 같아요. If you are more than 70% sure. Or you can answer, 오늘 밤 시장에 갈지도 몰라요. 오늘 밤 시장에 갈지도 몰라요. If you are not quite sure, but you might go if a certain condition is fulfilled. Okay? Because 오늘 밤 시장에 갈 것 같아요 means you might go to the market tonight. And 오늘 밤 시장에 갈지도 몰라요 means you don't know for sure whether you'd go or not. This percentage thing is not a rule actually, but we put the percentage for your better understanding. You might not need percentage if you can tell how certain it is as soon as you see or hear the predicated part and know what's actually in it. Then how would you say if you're 80% to 90% sure about your plan? You already know how to say it. You can just use the future tense form that you learned a long time ago. 오늘 밤 시장에 갈 거예요. But since you are just 80 to 90% sure, you better add the adverb probably. 아마. Otherwise, it will just mean I'll go to the market. 아마 오늘 밤 시장에 갈 거예요. 아마 오늘 밤 시장에 갈 거예요. It means probably you'd go to the market tonight. 아마 is very important adverb, so remember it. In English, probably is used when there is a good chance, 70% or more, and maybe or perhaps is used when you are not quite sure, 40% to 60%. But in Korean, 아마 can be used in substitution for all three of them. You don't have to distinguish them because the predicative part tells us how certain it is in Korean. You can use 아마 even when you are 70% or 40 to 60% sure. So you can use it for the two sentences above as well, no problem. Then why the first one is not 70 to 80% since 아마 오늘 밤 시장에 갈 거예요 indicates that there is 80 to 90% of chance. First of all, it's because this percentage thing is not a fixed rule in a grammar book. So you can set your own possibility rate for each. But please see what's actually in it. 을 것 같아요 means you expect something to happen, basically. So you can say that it's used when there is more than 70% of possibility. And 을지도 몰라요 means you are not quite sure whether something would happen or not, basically. That's why you can use it when you are 40 to 60% sure. If you don't agree with the percentage, you can set your own percentage based on the elements in each. No problem. Second, it could be a part of Korean culture. Korean people sometimes try to avoid saying they are 100% sure about something. Maybe it's kind of the culture of being modest. Or maybe we are trying to avoid being blamed. Anyway, we use one of these predicates even though we are quite sure about something. The point is, if you are uncomfortable with the percentage, just try to feel the meaning that each predicate actually has. Then how would you say if you are 100% sure about your plan? You can just take out probably, 아마, and say 오늘 밤 시장에 갈 거예요, which means I will go to the market tonight. 아마 오늘 밤 시장에 갈 거예요 means you are 80% to 90% sure you will go to the market tonight. And 오늘 밤 시장에 갈 거예요 without 아마 means you will go to the market tonight for sure. Now you know how to say something is a possibility and how certain it is. Amazing. Let's see this example. It can be a ghost. We used can for this sentence. Of course, this English auxiliary verb can be used to indicate that you have an ability to do something. But it can also be used to indicate that something is true sometimes or is true in some circumstances, right? In other words, you can use can when you take a guess or you can talk about possibility. Again, you don't have to know the exact difference between can, could, might, and may in English grammar to understand this. What did we use for the English auxiliary verb can to say you have an ability to do something? Yes, the final 르 or 을 sound plus 수 있어요, right? You use the exact same assistant verb 을 수 있어요 for this sentence. Let's rearrange the words first then. It's a simple sentence. The subject it comes first and the complement ghost comes next, and then predicative part be can or can be comes at the end. It, a ghost, be can. The direct translation of the English pronoun it is 그것, 그것 in Korean. 그것 is not really used in spoken Korean, but let's use it first to learn a school sentence. 그것. When you make a sentence based on the school grammar, you need to add a particle to the subject. You can use either the auxiliary particle 은 or the subject particle 이. It's your choice. If you use the auxiliary particle 은, it can sound like you indicate the topic of the sentence, or it gives the nuance of comparing or contrasting. If you use the subject particle 이, it can sound like you emphasize the subject, like that is the thing which is a ghost. Let's use the auxiliary particle 은 for this sentence because we just want to give a nuance that we brought up the topic of the sentence. We know it's really hard for you to understand the nuance of auxiliary particle. It's hard for us to explain it too. Just remember this. This auxiliary particle kinda has the nuance of comparing or contrasting somewhat. Or it can also simply indicate the topic of the sentence. And the subject particle kinda has the nuance of emphasizing. That's enough. Anyway, 그것은, 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 a ghost. Ghost is 귀신, 귀신 in Korean. 귀신. You can pronounce the compound vowel we, right? We, 귀신. Be can or can be. Take a look at the main structure of this sentence. It can be a ghost. Subject can be a complement. Subject might equal complement. Which predicate have you in your mind? Yes, 이다. This time you're not going to use 이에요 or 예요 because it will not come at the end of the sentence. We are just going to use the stem 이 this time. 이 plus final 르 consonant and 수 있어요. 일 수 있어요. 일 수 있어요. You know it's pronounced 일 수 있어요 with the s sound, right? 수 is always pronounced 수 when it's pronounced with the final 르 consonant or 을 sound. And 있어요 is always pronounced 있어요 or 있어요. Therefore, you don't even have to think about the pronunciation rule. It's just 일 수 있어요. 일 수 있어요. It, 그것은, a ghost, 귀신, be can, 일 수 있어요. 그것은 귀신일 수 있어요. 그것은 귀신일 수 있어요. 그것은 귀신일 수 있어요. We didn't put a space between 귀신 and 일 because the predicate 이다 is a predicate particle. As you don't put a space between a noun and particle right next to it, you never put a space between a noun and the predicate 이다. Okay? And the final 느 consonant of the 신 sound moves up to the initial 으 consonant of the next block. So it's pronounced 귀신일 수 있어요. 귀신일 수 있어요. 그것은 귀신일 수 있어요. 그것은 귀신일 수 있어요. Then what's the certainty rate of this sentence? I don't know, maybe 60 to 70%. It depends on whether you believe a ghost or not. But as we told you, this percentage thing is something we made up just for your better understanding. It's not fixed rule or something. This dependent noun 수 indicates someone or something's ability or possibility as you learned before. And 있다 means have or exist. So this 수 있다, 수 있어요 part can mean possibility exists. You okay with this? So you don't have to think about the certainty rate if you know what's actually in it. It means as it has. So 귀신일 수 있어요 just means there is a possibility that it can be a ghost. And when you're not sure about the nuance of the particle, or you want to get rid of the nuance that the particle has, you can use 그거 without a particle instead of 그것 in spoken Korean. 그거 귀신일 수 있어요. 그거 귀신일 수 있어요. Okay? Amazingly, you can bring down the certainty rate to 40 to 60% with the same assistant verb 을 수 있어요 by adding the auxiliary particle 도. 을 수도 있어요. 을 수도 있어요. Okay? This particle 도 adds the nuance of also, to, or as well. So the sentence will sound like it can be a ghost, or it can also be something else. Got it? So 그거 귀신일 수도 있어요. 그거 귀신일 수도 있어요. 그거 귀신일 수도 있어요. 그거 귀신일 수 있어요 without 도 can be used when you are more certain. And you can say 그거 귀신일 수도 있어요 with the particle 도 when you're not quite certain, but it's a possibility. 그거 귀신일 수도 있어요. So, 그거 귀신일 수도 있어요 sounds really similar to 그거 귀신일지도 몰라요. 그거 귀신일지도 몰라요. They both have the auxiliary particle 도, right? It's amazing, isn't it? How about it must be a ghost? You can use must when you want to indicate that you are fairly sure that something is the case in English. When you take a strong guess, right? There's another assistant verb that you can use when you take a strong guess in Korean. Take a look at this. 그거 귀신임에 틀림없어요. Right, it's a new thing. I don't think that you will learn something new on this page again. Let's forget about it. You will learn it later, maybe at level 2. You can mean something like this using what you already know. You can use what you used when you were 80 to 90% sure. 아마, maybe. 그거 귀신일 거예요. Yes, 아마 그거 귀신일 거예요 means closer to maybe it would be a ghost. But regarding the Korean culture, it must be fine if you use this one even when you are quite sure about something. Okay? 아마 그거 귀신일 거예요. 아마 그거 귀신일 거예요. 아마 그거 귀신일 거예요. If you're 100% sure, just take out maybe, 아마, and just say 그거 귀신일 거예요. 그거 귀신일 거예요. Or if you truly think that it is a ghost, you can just use a declarative form. 그거 귀신이에요. 그거 귀신이에요. It is very important to know that you can say something anyhow just with what you already know. Then let's learn how to say something is not a possibility. Making negative sentences in Korean doesn't seem so easy because the ways that the negative sentences are formed seems to be quite different every time. But if you understand the elements that the predicated part actually has and their meanings, it would not be so difficult to understand. For example, when we learned about ability, we used 을 수 있다, 을 수 있어요 for positive sentences. As we told you several times, 수 means a way, method, and ability. And 있다, 있어요 means have or exist. So 을 수 있어요 part has the meaning of having an ability, right? So if you want to turn it into a negative form, you should make it sound like not having an ability. Not have. What is the predicate? Actually, adjective, which means not have in Korean. Yes, 없다, 없어요. That's why the negative form of 을 수 있어요 has become 을 수 없어요. It's so obvious, right? You know that. The same thing applies to 을 줄 알다 as well. 줄 roughly means method and 알다 means to know something. So 줄 알다 roughly means know how to do something. If you want to say you don't know how to do something, you have to use the verb which has the opposite meaning to the assistant verb 알다, which means to know. What is the particular predicate which means not know in Korean? Yes, 모르다, 몰라요. So 을 줄 모르다, 을 줄 몰라요 means you don't know how to do something, which can mean you can't do something. How about necessity? When you want to say you should do something, you use 야 돼요, right? As we told you, 되다 roughly means desirable or be approved. So the condition, factor, or circumstance before the ending 야 is desirable so that it has to be done. It must, should, has to become real, right? So obviously when you want to say something is not desirable, you need to negate the desirable or be approved part in Korean, which is 되다. That's why we add a negative adverb 안 right before the assistant verb 되다, okay? Then now it will be easier for you to understand how to say something is not a possibility. Let's take a look at 을 것 같다 one more time, which is in the positive form. We've been negating the assistant verbs in other cases because of the meaning they have. But when you want to say something is not a possibility, you don't negate the assistant verb 같다. You don't. We'll tell you why. It's nothing. It's so obvious. 같다 is the final judgment, which roughly means to expect or to assume. The fact that you expect or assume is not changed. Even in the negative forms, you expect something not to happen. You assume that something is not happening. You expect and assume. Then what has to be in the negative form? Not to happen. Not happening. Yes, the main verb has to be in the negative form. So you add a negative adverb 안 right before the stem. 안 plus stem plus 을 것 같다. 안 을 것 같다. But do you remember there are two ways to negate predicates in Korean? Two ways to turn the predicate into a negative form. You learned about this a long time ago. Let us remind you with the verb 하다. You can simply add a negative adverb 안 right before stem. 안 하다 or 안 해요 in a real life conversation. Or you can say 하지 않다. 하지 않아요. Do you remember? This 않아요 roughly means not do. The h consonant is silent, as you know. In most of the cases, it will be fine to simply use 안 sound to make negative sentences. But in many cases, 지 않아요, 지 않다 goes better with the verbs which end in 하다 or 해요. There's no fixed rule for this, so we told you that you might have to learn it by doing. Anyways, the thing is, this 지 않다, 지 않아요 can be used to turn the predicates into negative forms, and the stem of 않다 is 안. So stem plus 지 안 plus 을 것 같아요 is also used to mean something or doing something is not a possibility. 지 않을 것 같아요. 지 않을 것 같아요. So if you add a stem 하 from the verb do, 하다, the first one is going to be 안 할 것 같아요. And the second one is going to be 하지 않을 것 같아요. 하지 않을 것 같아요. It's not difficult, is it? By the way, the h consonant of an is silent. So you can think that it was not there in the first place. So the final n consonant moves up to the initial consonant of the next block. So 안을 is actually pronounced 안을 것 같아요. You already know the 것 같아요 part, right? So 않을 것 같아요. 하지 않을 것 같아요. 하지 않을 것 같아요. Which roughly means you expect something not to happen. You can also turn 을지도 모르다, 을지도 몰라요 into a negative form. 안 plus stem plus 을지도 몰라요. If you use the stem 하, it will be 안 할지도 몰라요. 안 할지도 몰라요. Okay? Or you can add 지안 to the stem to negate the main verb. And then add 을지도 몰라요. Okay? It's the same as 지 않을 것 같아요. If you use the stem 하, it will be 하지 않을지도 몰라요. Which roughly means you don't know for sure, but it would not happen. It's a little bit complicated, isn't it? Let's make actual sentences together, then it will become much clearer. Please take a look at this sentence. It might not rain today. We told you that there is no concept of dummy pronoun in Korean, like the pronoun it in this sentence. So Koreans don't say it rains, but they say rain falls. So the sentence should be like, rain might not fall today. Let's rearrange the words then. This time, we want to put the time-related word today first. Why? You know the position of the words in Korean is relatively flexible, right? So we just want to emphasize that we are talking about today. That's why. You can do that in English too, right? Like today, it might not rain. Of course, you can put today right after the subject rain. No problem. And then what is coming next? Yes, rain comes next because it's the subject of the sentence. And let's put the negative adverb not. And then put the predicative part fall might or might fall at the end. The certainty rate is not a fixed rule. But if you're more than 70% sure that something might not happen, you could use 을 것 같아요. 을 것 같아요. So, today, 오늘, rain, 비. Yes, rain is 비 in Korean. It's not P, it's B. It's also explosive sound, but it's totally different from P in Korean. You know that. And let's put the subject particle 가. 비가. 비가. Of course, you can use the auxiliary particle 는. But if you do that, the sentence would have the hidden meaning of rain might not fall, but the snow might fall, because of the nuance of comparing and contrasting that the auxiliary particle 은 has. Okay? So let's use the subject particle 가. 비가. 비가. If you really don't understand the difference between the subject particle and the auxiliary particle, you can get rid of them in spoken Korean. Only in spoken Korean. Not. 안. fall might. When you want to say rain falls, you can use the verb 내리다. 내리다. 내리다 is not used to mean something moves quickly downward onto the ground other than rain. So you use this verb 내리다 when rain falls or when you get off the transportation such as a car or airplane. The stem of this verb is 내리. 내리. You need to add a final 르 consonant and 것 같아요 to mean might. 내릴 것 같아요. 내릴 것 같아요. Today, 오늘, rain, 비가, not fall might, 안 내릴 것 같아요. 오늘 비가 안 내릴 것 같아요. 오늘 비가 안 내릴 것 같아요. 오늘 비가 안 내릴 것 같아요. I gotta tell you something. This sentence might sound a tiny bit less natural to Koreans. Just a tiny bit. About 5%. Because we are trying to teach you the basics with less exceptions and without adding extra elements, which might make it sound a little bit more natural to native Korean speakers. Because it might be too complicated or too difficult for you to understand the additional elements that make you sound like the native Korean speakers who are born and raised in Korea. So just follow our lead for now. This sentence is perfect enough to communicate properly. Nothing is wrong. You can learn more elements, more grammar, more vocabs which can enrich your speaking and everything from level 2. So at level 1, just try to make sentences with the basics and have the strong fundamental. That's your goal. You can have a conversation in Korean with these basic sentences without a problem, I am sure. Then let's use 지 않을 것 같아요 this time. The stem is 내리 and add 지 않을 것 같아요. 내리지 않을 것 같아요. 오늘 비가 내리지 않을 것 같아요. 오늘 비가 내리지 않을 것 같아요. 오늘 비가 내리지 않을 것 같아요. There are too many letters in the second way, right? Fortunately, Koreans use the first way more. 오늘 비가 안 내릴 것 같아요. But you should know the second way too. 오늘 비가 내리지 않을 것 같아요. Because some verbs do not go with the negative adverb 안, especially the verbs end in 하다. Okay? Then let's bring down the certainty rate to 40 to 60%. Yes, we're gonna use 을지도 몰라요 this time. When you say rain falls, you can also use the verb come in Korean. 오다. 오 is the stem. So the stem 오 plus final 르 consonant and 지도 몰라요. 올지도 몰라요. 올지도 몰라요. might come. 올지도 몰라요. Today, 오늘, rain, 비가, not, 안, might come, 올지도 몰라요. 오늘 비가 안 올지도 몰라요. 오늘 비가 안 올지도 몰라요. 오늘 비가 안 올지도 몰라요. You should know that 안 올지도 몰라요 is actually pronounced 안 올지도 몰라요. 안 올지도. Okay? 오늘 비가 안 올지도 몰라요. Koreans use this verb come for rain a lot too, so you can use either of them. Then let's use 지안 this time. The stem is 오 and 지 않을지도 몰라요. 오지 않을지도 몰라요. 오지 않을지도 몰라요. This one seems a little bit difficult, doesn't it? Because there are two G sounds in it. But you can do that. 오지 않을지도 몰라요. 오지 않을지도 몰라요. The first G is pronounced the same G sound. And the second G is actually pronounced G with the double consonant 즈 sound. And you know why. 오늘 비가 오지 않을지도 몰라요. 오늘 비가 오지 않을지도 몰라요. 오늘 비가 오지 않을지도 몰라요. And you can use 을 수도 있어요 when you talk about possibility, as you know. 오늘 비가 안 올 수도 있어요. 오늘 비가 안 올 수도 있어요. Or you can use 아마 and 거예요. 아마 오늘 비가 안 올 거예요. 아마 오늘 비가 안 올 거예요. You know you can use 아마, maybe, probably for any of these sentences on this page, right? Please don't think there are too many ways to say something in Korean. We are just utilizing what you've already learned. It's the same in any language. If it's too much, forget about the last two sentences because they have other usages anyway. Let's take a look at this example. I might not regret having come to Korea. This sentence looks a little bit complicated, but it's actually not. You can make this kind of sentence based on what you've learned so far. Let's do it together though. Let's rearrange the words. Let's take a look at the having come to Korea part. The entire having come to Korea part takes the position of an object of the verb regret in Korean. Please remember that. So the subject I comes first, and the entire having come to Korea comes next. But you need to rearrange the words within this phrase. To Korea is a destination. So to Korea comes first, and then having come comes next. And then the negative adverb not comes. And then the predicative part regret might comes. I to Korea having come, not regret might. I. Let's use the subject 저 with the auxiliary particle 는 to indicate the topic of the sentence. 저는. Of course, you can say 제가. Let's not talk about the nuance of them on this page. To Korea. It's a destination. Let's use the particle 에. 한국에. 한국에. Having come. This is the tricky part. Please listen carefully. Because of the fact that we used having instead of directly using coming, it indicates that the action of coming to Korea happened in the past, right? Since there is no grammatical element which works like this gerund having in Korean, you just need to put the verb come in the past tense, and having is in the gerund form. Therefore, you need to turn the verb come into a noun form in Korean. So to sum up, you need to turn the verb come into the past tense, and it has to be in the noun form at the same time. What dependent noun did you use to turn a verb into a noun form? Yes, 것. And the stem of the verb come is 오. This stem 오 has to have the form that modifies the dependent noun 것, but in the past tense. If it's just a gerund phrase or it's in the present tense, you should add the ending 는, 오는 것. But it's in the past tense this time. Therefore, you need to add the final 느 consonant. So it has to be 온 것, having come, 온 것. How about 왔던 것? If you use the ending 왔던 or 어떤, it would have the nuance of not anymore. But we don't think you need that for this sentence. So 온 것 sounds perfect. This to Korean having come part is the object of the verb regret. So you can add the object particle 을 right next to the dependent noun 것. To Korea having come. 한국에 온 것을. 한국에 온 것을. Not. 안. Regret might. Let's say you are more than 70% sure about this. Let's use 을 것 같아요. 을 것 같아요 first. The basic form of the verb regret is 후회하다. 후회하다. 후회하다 in Korean. It ends in 하다. Remember that. The stem is 후회하. Let's add the final 르 consonant and 것 같아요 to the stem. 후회하. 후회할 것 같아요. 후회할 것 같아요. Regret might. 후회할 것 같아요. So 저는 to Korea, 한국에 having come, 온 것을 not regret might, 안 후회할 것 같아요. 저는 한국에 온 것을 안 후회할 것 같아요. 저는 한국에 온 것을 안 후회할 것 같아요. 저는 한국에 온 것을 안 후회할 것 같아요. Yes, it's a perfect sentence, but since the main verb has 하다, 해요, 하, it sounds better with 지 않을 것 같아요. So, 후회하 plus 지 않을 것 같아요. 후회하지 않을 것 같아요. And 저는 can be shortened to 전, and 것을 can be shortened to 걸 in spoken Korean. 전 한국에 온 걸 후회하지 않을 것 같아요. 전 한국에 온 걸 후회하지 않을 것 같아요. Perfect. Then let's bring down the certainty rate to 50-50% or 40-60%. Yes, we're gonna use 을지도 몰라요. 을지도 몰라요. 지 않을지도 몰라요. The stem 후회하 plus 지안 plus 을지도 몰라요. 후회하지 않을지도 몰라요. 후회하지 않을지도 몰라요. 전 한국에 온 거, let's use 거 instead of 것, which does not contain the object particle 을 or 를. It's totally fine in spoken Korean, only in spoken Korean. 전 한국에 온 거 후회하지 않을지도 몰라요. 전 한국에 온 거 후회하지 않을지도 몰라요. Which means there are 50% of the chance that you might not regret and the other 50% of the chance that you might regret. Let's use 수도 있어요. 수도 있어요 this time. 전 한국에 온 거 후회하지 않을 수도 있어요. 전 한국에 온 거 후회하지 않을 수도 있어요. Because of this 도 sound, this sentence sounds really similar to the previous one. 전 한국에 온 거 후회하지 않을지도 몰라요. You know that. When you're almost sure, you can say 아마 전 한국에 온 거 후회하지 않을 거예요. If you are totally sure that you want to say you will not regret, you take out 아마 and say 전 한국에 온 거 후회하지 않을 거예요. 전 한국에 온 거 후회하지 않을 거예요. Right? Perfect. Let's take a look at this sentence. 지용 might have gone home. You use might have plus past participle when you talk about the possible situation in the past, or with conditional or subjunctive sentences in English, right? So let's learn how to talk about the possible situation in the past on this page. Let's rearrange the words first. 지용 is someone's name and the subject of the sentence. So 지용 comes first, and then the destination home comes, and the predicative part have gone might or might have gone comes at the end. 지용, home, have gone might. Let's say 지용 is your friend whose age is equal or younger than yours. So you can just call his name when you talk about him to other people. The important thing is when you use someone's name as the subject, you should see if the last letter of the name has a final consonant or not. If it does, you should add E sound to sound natural. 지용이, 지용이. And let's use the auxiliary particle 는, because you bring out 지용 as the topic out of three people. You, the listener, and 지용. 지용이는, 지용이는, not you and me. Where's 지용? 지용이는. Now you're getting why we said the auxiliary particle 는 is used to indicate the topic of the sentence, right? Of course, in many cases, the topic and the subject are the same. But in Korean, you will also see many cases that the topic and the subject are different. Let's talk about it later again. Anyway, 지용이는, home, 집, 집. It's a place or destination. You can use the particle 에, 집에, 집에, 집에. Have gone might. This is the part you should actually learn on this page. So listen carefully. We are going to use the same 을 것 같아요 for this. When you want to talk about the possible situation in the past, you add the past tense indicator at, ot, or het sound to the stem, and then add 을 것 같아요. You always use 을 sound for this because the past tense indicator always has the final consonant. Then why 같아요 part is in the present tense. It is something not melted in the English grammar, so listen carefully. It's because 같아요 is your final judgment, which means expect or assume. So you expect now about the occasion in the past. That's why it's in the present tense. And the past tense indicator tells that it might have happened in the past. Got it? So if you want to say that you expected in the past that something happened or had happened, you should put the 같아요 part in the past tense. We're not going to show you the example for it because you will learn about it later again. But if you understand the mechanism already, you wouldn't need to learn about this again. Then let's make the predicated part together. The basic form of the verb go is 가다 in Korean, and the stem is 가. Since it has the yang vowel 아, you should add the past tense indicator at sound with the same yang vowel 아 and add 을 것 같아요. But because of the fact that the stem 가 doesn't have any final consonant, it has to be combined with at sound right next to it. They both have the same 아 vowel. Therefore, one of them has to disappear. So it becomes 갓 sound. 갔을 것 같아요. 갔을 것 같아요. 갔을 것 같아요. 지용이는 집에 갔을 것 같아요. 지용이는 집에 갔을 것 같아요. Which means 지용 might have gone home. Okay? Great. And you can, of course, use 을지도 몰라요 when you're just 50-50 sure or 40 to 60% sure. Please see how it looks like. You need to add a past tense indicator to the stem first. Stem plus at, or het, and 을지도 몰라요. The stem 가 plus the past tense indicator at becomes 갓 and 을지도 몰라요. 갔을지도 몰라요. 갔을지도 몰라요. 지용이는 집에 갔을지도 몰라요. 지용이는 집에 갔을지도 몰라요. Which means 지용 might have gone home, but you are not sure. Maybe there's 50-50 or a 40 to 60% chance. The same thing applies to 몰라요 too. It's the final judgment to say that not know. You don't know now about the possible situation in the past. So 몰라요 still has to be in the present tense. Nothing is difficult, right? Let's continue on the next page. Let's learn something difficult on this page. Something that you learn when you reach the intermediate level. But we know you can handle this. If it's too hard for you, just skip it. You know that you can use 을 수 있어요 for both ability and possibility, right? When you use 을 수 있어요 to talk about someone's ability to do something, 수 means ability, and 있어요 means to have an ability. When you use 을 수 있어요 for possibility, 수 means possibility, and 있어요 means to have or to exist. To have a possibility or possibility exists, right? You can also add the auxiliary particle 도. 을 수도 있어요. 을 수도 있어요. When you talk about possible situation. As you know, the difference is 을 수 있어요 sounds like possibility exists, but 을 수도 있어요 sounds like possibility might exist or not, right? Let's leave it there and take a look at these two English sentences. The first sentence is 지용 might have gone home, which is the same sentence that you've seen in the previous page. And the second sentence is 지용 could have gone home. What's the difference between these two sentences? The first sentence means there is a possibility now that 지용 has gone home or went home in the past. Again, the first sentence means I think now that 지용 has gone home or went home in the past. And the second sentence means 지용 could go home in the past, but he didn't. Possibility existed in the past. You use could have in conditional or subjunctive sentences in English, and it means something could have happened if a certain condition had been fulfilled, but it didn't happen actually. Then let's use the same 을 수도 있어요 to translate these two English sentences. Yes, you can translate both of them using the same assistant verb 을 수도 있어요. 지용이는 집에 part is the same. I'm not talking about the English grammar, so you shouldn't think this in the English way and listen carefully. Might have gone part means it is possible that 지용 went home in the past. You guess now. So the possibility exists now even though you talk about the event in the past. The possibility is now present because you think now, you guess now. So exist part 있어요 should be in the present tense and the main verb go should indicate the past tense. So the stem 가 plus the past tense indicator at plus 을 수도 있어요. 갔을 수도 있어요. 갔을 수도 있어요 is the correct translation of might have gone part. 지용이는 집에 갔을 수도 있어요. 지용이는 집에 갔을 수도 있어요. Which means 지용 might have gone home in the past or not. And it sounds almost the same as 지용이는 집에 갔을지도 몰라요. 지용이는 집에 갔을지도 몰라요. Because it means you don't know for sure whether 지용 went home or not. You know that. Then let's translate 지용 could have gone home. 지용이는 집에 part is the same. 지용 could go home, but he didn't. The possibility of 지용 going home existed in the past. Do you understand this part? 지용 could go home in the past, but he didn't. That's why you say 지용 could have gone home. The possibility of going home existed in the past. 지용 could have gone home in the past if a certain condition had been fulfilled, but he didn't. Therefore, 있어요, to have, to exist part should be in the past tense because the possibility existed in the past. And now you don't have to add a past tense indicator to the stem because 지용 going home would be in the future moment from the speaker's standpoint in the past. So you just need to add final L consonant to the stem. Difficult? The possibility for 지용 to go home existed in the past. So you put yourself in the past moment and talk about the possible situation in the future moment from the past. The tense in Korean is relatively like this. You will learn more about it eventually. If it's too difficult, just remember that you put the exist part, 있어요, in the past tense when you talk about the possible event in the past which has not come true, because the possibility existed in the past. Got it? So stem 가 plus final L consonant and 수도 it and past tense indicator 엇 and 어요. 갈 수도 있었어요. 지용이는 집에 갈 수도 있었어요. 지용이는 집에 갈 수도 있었어요. 지용이는 집에 갈 수도 있었어요. It sounds exactly like 지용 could have gone home if a certain condition had been fulfilled, but he didn't. 지용이는 집에 갔을 수도 있어요 means 지용 might have gone home. But 지용이는 집에 갈 수도 있었어요 means 지용 could have gone home, but he didn't. If you are able to understand what we said on this page, you can be proud of yourself. Let's add a present continuous tense to the Korean assistant verb which expresses a possibility. Let's see the English sentence first. Teacher might be coming here now, or teacher must be coming here now. Modal plus verb ing form can be used in a conditional sentence too in English, but we are talking about a possibility of an activity which is in progress at the present moment. We didn't use a definite article nor possessive case for the subject teacher because we are not going to translate it anyway. It will sound natural without any of them in Korean. You can add a definite article the or possessive my to the subject teacher in the English sentence if you want. But remember that we are not going to translate it anyway. We'll tell you why shortly. Let's rearrange the words first. Teacher should come first because it's a subject. Now can come next because it's a time-related word. Here can come after it because it's a place-related word. And then the predicative part, becoming might or might becoming, comes at the end of the sentence. Teacher, now here, becoming might. Teacher is 선생님. 선생님. It's an actually higher respect form of 선생, which means a teacher too. But we normally add 님 sound to 선생 and call them 선생님 to show more respect. You can just use the word 선생님 only as a subject when the listener already knows which teacher you are talking about. By the way, Koreans don't use the possessive my for their teachers. They rather use our, 우리, instead of my, 제. It's because Korean people think that they share their teacher with other students. It's a part of the Korean culture. I think it's diminishing nowadays because of the influence of the Western culture, but Koreans rather use our, 우리, than my, 제, when they are talking about something belongs to or connected with them, such as house, parents, or teacher. 선생님. When you call your teacher in Korea, you can call him or her just 선생님, teacher. It's totally fine. If there are many teachers in one place and you want to call or indicate one particular teacher, you can use their full name plus the word teacher, 선생님, like 배수지 선생님, 배수지 선생님. You can also use only the last name like 배 선생님, 배 선생님. But if you are a student, we recommend you should use his or her full name, 배수지 선생님, or just 선생님. Let's say the listener already knows that you are talking about your teacher, so you can use just 선생님 here. It's a subject. You can add either auxiliary particle 은 or the subject particle 이. Which one would you like to use? If you add the auxiliary particle 은, it would sound like everybody else is already here, but teacher might be coming here right now. Or the other teachers are not coming, but our teacher might be coming here now. You know what it means? It can add a nuance of comparing or contrasting. Or it can simply indicate the topic of the sentence. As for my teacher, he might be coming here now. But it still has sort of the nuance of comparing, like we are all here, but the teacher might be coming now. Do you understand the nuance? If you use the subject particle 이, it kinda emphasizes the subject. For example, when someone asks you, who else is coming? You say, our teacher might be the one who's coming, using the subject particle. Or when someone asks you, who do you expect is coming? You say, teacher might be the one who's coming, or I think it would be the teacher who's coming, using the subject particle 이 or 가. Do you understand the nuance? Let's use the auxiliary particle 은 this time, because it can be used when you simply change the topic of the conversation. 선생님은, 선생님은, 선생님은. If you don't understand the exact usage of the auxiliary particle or subject particle, you can get rid of it. People would understand what we're trying to say perfectly. Now, 지금. It's a noun, but it can be an adverb too in Korean. So you don't have to add a particle. Here, 여기, 여기. It's a pronoun. Here is adverb in English, but 여기 is a pronoun in Korean. So you can add a particle 에, 여기에, 여기에. Or if you want to add a nuance of the direction or the nuance that the English preposition toward has, you can add a particle 로, 여기로, 여기로. 여기에 or 여기로. Okay? Becoming might. This is the important part, but it's very simple. It's nothing. You add the assistant predicate, which indicates the present continuous tense, to the stem first, and then add another assistant predicate, which expresses a possibility. That's it. The basic form of the verb come in Korean is 오다, and the stem is 오. You add 고 있어요 to the stem 오 if you want to put it in the present continuous tense, right? But you don't need the ending 어요 because it's not the end of the sentence. You will add another assistant predicate which expresses a possibility. So you just need the stem it of the assistant predicate 있어요. Because, again, you are going to add another assistant verb which expresses a possibility. So, 오고 it, 오고 it. And let's use final 르, consonant or 을 sound plus 것 같아요 to say it's a possibility. The previous block, it, has a final consonant. Therefore, you need to add 을 sound and 것 같아요. 오고 it, 을, 것 같아요. 오고 있을 것 같아요. 오고 있을 것 같아요. Okay? Becoming might or might becoming 오고 있을 것 같아요. It actually means you expect or assume that someone is coming, right? Because 같아요 part means expect or assume, okay? 오고 있을 것 같아요. Teacher, 선생님은 now, 지금, here, 여기에, or 여기로, becoming might, 오고 있을 것 같아요. 선생님은 지금 여기에 오고 있을 것 같아요. Or, 선생님은 지금 여기로 오고 있을 것 같아요. 선생님은 지금 여기에 오고 있을 것 같아요. Or, 선생님은 지금 여기로 오고 있을 것 같아요. If you are not sure about the nuance of the auxiliary or subject particle, you can make a sentence without any of them. 선생님 지금 여기에 오고 있을 것 같아요. 선생님 지금 여기에 오고 있을 것 같아요. Okay? Now, let's make a higher respect form since the subject is 선생님. It is natural to use higher respect forms to teachers in Korea, no matter how old they are. Teacher, 선생님. The noun 선생님 is already in a higher respect form with the 님 sound. How about the particle? Do you remember the higher respect form of the subject particle 이 and 가? It's 깨서, 깨서. But don't forget, 깨서 is actually a higher respect form of the subject particle 이 and 가. So when you want to add a nuance that the auxiliary particle 는 has, you need to add 은 or 는 right after 깨서. Okay? Using two different particles consecutively is not allowed normally in Korean, but you can add an auxiliary particle 은, 는, or 도 to a different particle in a couple of cases. This is one of them. We use the auxiliary particle 은 for the original sentence. So let's use it again. 선생님께서는 선생님께서는 This time you should use the particle 는, not 은, because the block right before it doesn't have a final consonant. 선생님께서는 선생님께서는 When you use 깨서 and 은, 는 together, the nuance that the higher respect form of the subject particle 깨서 has almost disappears. And only the nuance that the auxiliary particle 은, 는 has remains. So it's almost like you add only the auxiliary particle 은 or 는. 깨서 takes the role of showing more respect to the subject as a higher respect form. But when 깨서 is used alone, it will still have the nuance that the subject particle has. Remember that. Now, 지금, here, 여기에, or 여기로, becoming might. This is the important part again. It's a little bit complicated than you expected, so listen carefully. Did you guys watch our bonus lesson about how to make a higher respect sentence when there are more than 2 predicates combined at the end of the sentence? Hope you did, because as you see, there are 3 predicates combined at the end of this Korean sentence. First, the verb come, 오다, and the assistant predicate 고 있다, which indicates the present continuous tense, and another assistant predicate 을 것 같다, which expresses a possibility and actually means expect or assume. According to the first rule that we presented in the bonus lesson, we just need to turn average predicate into higher respect form by adding 시 sound to average predicate. It's simple, but let's talk about the second rule that we presented in the lesson. When we explained about the second rule, we said that you should find out which predicate is directly connected to the subject. In other words, you should know which predicate is the action actually done by the subject. The subject here is 선생님, teacher. Let's see the predicative part in the first sentence. 오고 있을 것 같아요. Please listen carefully. 오 is from the verb 오다, which means come, right? And 고있 is from 고있다, which can put the stem in the present continuous tense. So 오고 있 part is like becoming in English. But how about 같아요 in the Korean sentence? We told you that it actually means expect or assume. It's not the action nor status of the subject. It belongs to the speaker's opinion, saying that I expect that the subject might be coming. Okay? So you don't have to turn the last predicate 같아요 into higher respect form. Very interesting, isn't it? So we are going to turn the stem 오 and the assistant predicate 고있 part into higher respect forms. But we are not going to turn the last assistant predicate 같아요 into a higher respect form because it's not the action nor status of the subject. So the higher respect form of the verb come, 오다, is 오시다. You simply add 시 sound to the stem, 오시다. So the stem is now 오시, okay? And the higher respect form of 있다 is 계시다, 계시다. It's a special higher respect form which is used when someone is at a location, exists, or doing something in the present moment. You cannot use this higher respect form 계시다 to mean to have. Remember that. And the stem is 계시. Therefore, you add 고계시 to the stem 오시. 오시고 계시. 오시고 계시. Okay? And you add final 르 consonant to the last 시 sound and 것 같아요 at the end to mean you expect this. 오시고 계실 것 같아요. 오시고 계실 것 같아요. 오시고 계실 것 같아요. Teacher, 선생님께서는 now, 지금, here, 여기에, or 여기로, becoming might, 오시고 계실 것 같아요. 오시고 계실 것 같아요. 선생님께서는 지금 여기에 오시고 계실 것 같아요. 선생님께서는 지금 여기에 오시고 계실 것 같아요. 선생님께서는 지금 여기에 오시고 계실 것 같아요. A little bit complicated, isn't it? But we know you can handle this. Then let's use 을지도 몰라요 this time, which actually means I don't know for sure whether this might happen or not. Let's make a higher respect form right away. 선생님께서는 지금 여기에 becoming might. Let's take a closer look at the 을지도 몰라요 part. Who doesn't know? The teacher or you? Yes, you don't know for sure. The speaker doesn't know, not the subject teacher. Therefore, you don't have to turn the last predicative part 을지도 몰라요, actually 몰라요 part, which means not know, into higher respect form. Okay? You don't have to do that. So you add final 르 consonant and 지도 몰라요 to 오시고 계시. 오시고 계실지도 몰라요. 오시고 계실지도 몰라요. 선생님께서는 지금 여기에 오시고 계실지도 몰라요. 선생님께서는 지금 여기에 오시고 계실지도 몰라요. 선생님께서는 지금 여기에 오시고 계실지도 몰라요. Okay? You understand the exact meaning of this sentence, don't you? It means teacher might be coming here now, but you don't know for sure. You should know the exact meaning of the Korean sentence. Don't stick with the English sentence teacher might be coming, okay? You should know what's actually in the Korean sentence. Then let's make another higher respect sentence, which means almost the same as the sentence above with 을지도 몰라요. What are you going to use? Yes, 을 수도 있어요. 을 수도 있어요. Let's talk about 있어요 part first before we make the full sentence. What is 있어요? 있어요 means have or exist. 수 means possibility or ability. It's a possibility this time because we are talking about the possibility. This is super interesting too. Please listen carefully. When you talk about your ability, 수 있어요 means the subject has an ability. 있어요 means have or has, and 수 means ability, right? So 있어요 part is actually an action of the subject because the subject has an ability, right? So you can turn even 있어요 part into a higher respect form when you talk about someone's ability to do something. But when you talk about possibility, 수 있어요 means possibility exists. The subject does not own the possibility. It just exists. So you don't have to turn the predicate 있어요 into a higher respect form when you talk about a possibility. Very interesting and confusing at the same time, isn't it? But nowadays, people working in the service area, such as a call center or a department store, turn every predicate into a higher respect form, even though the last predicate does not belong to or connected with them, to sound overly polite. So you can hear it, but it's not actually correct, and it sounds a little bit weird sometimes. Anyway, now you are talking about possibility, and the last predicate, 있어요, is not action nor status of the subject. Therefore, you don't have to turn the last predicate, 있어요, into a higher respect form. So, 선생님께서는 지금 여기로 오시고 계실 수도 있어요. 선생님께서는 지금 여기로 오시고 계실 수도 있어요. 선생님께서는 지금 여기로 오시고 계실 수도 있어요. Which sounds almost the same as 선생님께서는 지금 여기로 오시고 계실지도 몰라요. 선생님께서는 지금 여기로 오시고 계실지도 몰라요. Because of the auxiliary particle 도, which is added to 수 sound of 수 있어요. It makes them sound like there are 50-50 chance. Okay? Let's take a look at the last Korean sentence together. Let's read it first. 선생님께서는 지금 여기에 오시고 계실 거예요. 선생님께서는 지금 여기에 오시고 계실 거예요. We used 을 거예요, which we told you is used to put the predicate into the future tense. But as we told you, it can also be used as the English modal would, which indicates something that can happen in the future. But if you feel strange because of the fact that 을 거예요 part can indicate both the future tense and possibility, you can add 아마, probably, maybe in the beginning of the sentence to show that you are talking about a possibility. So, 아마 선생님께서는 지금 여기에 오시고 계실 거예요. Then no one would think that you are talking about the future tense. As we told you, 예요 is not the action or status of the subject. Therefore, you don't have to turn it into a higher respect form. Okay, this is the end of lesson 7 part 5. Let's learn more about expressing possibility in Korean in the next video. 그럼 다음 비디오에서 만나요. 안녕히 계세요.